Hey Washington Fish Westers, Blake here. I had someone ask me, a long-time viewer, what I have in my boat box, and this was probably 3 months ago because he was going to buy a watercraft. I can't remember if it was a kayak or a small boat. That's what I have, a 14-foot Lund, so I'm in the small boat crowd. And it's bugging the heck out of me because I cannot find that comment. So if you're the person who asked me, catch me in the mints, please, because I do remember you're a long-time sub, and I do like to put the comments here on the bottom and do videos like this for people who have watched me a long time and just asked me to do a video. So at any rate, the end of the year is a great time to go through your boat box, your personal watercraft box, your kayaks box, whatever, and see, you know, what you got and if you need anything different and what might have expired. So, or if you're buying a new vessel, like I said, like kind of a first-time watercraft owner, hopefully this video can be helpful. So I'm going to look through my box here. This is kind of an unboxing in the sense that my memory's not great, and it's been, you know, I get into this box, but it's not like I go through and catalog it, except maybe once a year. So to start out with, the first item I'd say anybody should get that I really like, and a lot of people don't have with this in the smaller boat crowd, is a VHF radio. So this is essentially a marine walkie-talkie, and they do two things for you. One, safety. So if you get, into trouble, this is, like I say, basically a marine walkie-talkie if you don't have cell service or that sort of thing. Or even if you do, I mean, the person you might call on the cell phone might not be able to come save your butt, like Shingo has done to me one time in the past. But, so this is like your lifeline to a fellow boater. And speaking of other boaters, the second thing is if you're fishing with another person, like I say, they're like a marine walkie-talkie. And I'm going to turn it on. Yeah, there we go. And unlike a cell phone, they're passive, so you can just have that on. Kind of noisy with the static there, you turn that down. Just have it on, put it in your cup holder or whatever, and you can report to each other, agree on a channel to get on, and when you're on that channel, you'll just hear each other talking. Someone else can jump on your channel, but, probably no big whoop. But at any rate, so it can be good for both safety and for planning purposes. I actually don't keep that in my box, so I didn't want to share that. This was only about $100, if that. I think it was less than 100, and you know how cheap I am, and these are, you can see this thing's been through the mill. I mean, a lot of things are built with planned obsolescence in mind. I don't think they really do that with VHFs. Oh, jeez. Because they're meant for marine safety. I mean, I bet I have that thing for over 10 years. It's never failed me. It's great. All right, let's get into the actual boat box. It's about the size of a tackle box, a little smaller. In my Lund, it sits under the seat that I sit in. So I have this little compartment under me. It fits in there really nicely. I'd say it's actually maybe smaller than my typical tackle box. See, there you go. I'm radio reheating it here. But it looks a little bigger because it's sitting in front of me. So let's get into the Ark of the Covenant here. So, some of this is going to be optional stuff. Some is required. I'm not going to go into what's required and what's not because it might be different where you live. There's different requirements for federal waters than state waters. At any rate, so this one here is kind of a fun one. This is definitely an optional. But these are marine maps. So these become kind of less important as GPS on your phone has gotten better and electronics have gotten better in general. But there has been a few times that I've had my electronics go out and it's nice to have a good old-fashioned map. Honestly, what these have come in handy for more than anything is if you're bored on my boat. I've had adults and kids alike just pull out my maps and start reading them because, it's fun to look at a map. These maps are also kind of out of date in the sense that they initially were made when Puget Sound was full of fish from South Sound all the way up to Blaine. So, there'll be areas like in Olympia where it's like, oh, this is a great cod fishery. And although it's kind of sad, it's kind of fun also to historically just look. Next thing, spotlight. I'm probably going to replace this. No, it's got plenty of juice. Very big though. No, it's LED. Woof, I shouldn't have looked straight into it like that. Oh, but at any rate, I might get a smaller one. But yeah, this is great. It's just nice to have extra lighting. I think I have a flashlight in here too. Don't skip on the lighting, the emergency lighting if you plan to run in the dark at all, which I do both in the morning and the evening. A lot of the time, I like to be on the water before the sun goes up, and I like to be off it when the sun goes down. My current boat's name is the Sundowner. That's why, because I'll fish all day if I get the chance. So yeah, extra lights are really nice to have. And let's see here. So this is, if you have a power motor, like a gas motor, this is an extra starting cord, and this is the manual that goes with it. This is, if you break off your pull cord there, you can take the cowling off and use this. So I think that's worth to have. Then I have a lot of stuff in here that falls under kind of like the MacGyvering your way out of a situation. So here's just some line, just a little handful of line. You never know, you might need it to tie up to a log or tie off to something, to dock, whatever. So I just like to keep a little extra line. Zip ties. I'm big on extra zip ties. Zip ties have got me out of many a jam. You know, I mean, a lot of the time it's gear like jams. Like, let's say your reel somehow breaks off your rod, or your crab pod gets bent or something, and you need zip ties to hold it together just to get through the day. Zip ties about annually get me out of a jam. Speaking of which, I also like to have some just kind of loose wire, and this is just, I mean, this isn't wire to like run electricity through, but just some kind of same thing, you know, just to tie things up if I need. 2 years ago I needed this, I recall, because, and again, this is a power motor thing, so if you're a kayaker, you wouldn't need this, but you know where your boat pees, the outtake for the output, I should say, for the water, you know, the coolant water, it got jammed up, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to get off of the water, you know, because my motor's gonna overheat. I pulled my boat up onto the shore, and I actually just took the end of this and went boop, and there was just a little pebble that had gotten in there somehow, and then it just sprayed like fine. So saved me from getting off the water, you know. So I got to have a good trip. Actually, if you've seen my episode where I catch it was a resident coho fly fishing, and that was my first fish in the salt on the fly. That saved that trip. I wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for that. So this is just little MacGyver stuff. And lastly, in that realm, I always like some electrical tape. The electrical tape has also got me out of many jams. Again, just wrapping stuff up, keeping it together. I don't have many good examples right now, but stuff breaks on a watercraft that you didn't see coming. So those are kind of my three things. It's just to literally hold everything together. Crab gauge. This is another completely optional. You know, I probably crab more than anything when I think about it. You know, I bet I go crabbing 8 times a year, 6 to 10 maybe, we'll say. Depends on how much free time I have during the year, and you know which areas are open and how close they are to me. But you know, there's been many times I've forgotten my crab gauge, so great just to have a cheapo one in your box. Now let's get into some of the good required stuff. So this is my registration. Here, I'm going to put my hand over it. This is the registration for my boat, not the title. You don't want to have the title on in case somebody steals your title. But you know, if you get pulled over by the game warden, they will want to see your registration. So, and, you know, it needs to be the current registration. So you do need to trade this out. I believe every, what is it, June 30th, the boats get renewed. So whenever you renew your registration, yeah, that's right. Whenever you renew your registration, which will be mid-year, you'll want to swap this out. And I get checked probably almost annually. When I go shrimping, it's pretty common to get checked. Something that's required, oh, someone's pulling up on me here. But I was gonna say something that's required and a good idea is a noise-making device. I've got 2 because this one's getting pretty old. It's got a few sprays left in it. This one's pretty much full. I'm not gonna do it right now because there's people at this park. But these are great. Like if I'm at Shoal or somewhere like that, like a crowded marina where you go out and there's a breakwater that you can't see across, you know, it's kind of a blind. I'll give these a spritz sometime, you know, especially if it's rough conditions and a big boat might come in and not see you. I think it's better to be safe and sorry, so you just let them know you're going out. But these could save your life for sure, because although I'm not in a kayak, you know, especially if you're in a kayak, you want some kind of noise-making device. But even in my 14-foot boat, sometimes a large boater might not see it. They might be going really fast, and you need to get their attention, and this is a good way to do that. Then the last thing, hey PJ.
Hey, you okay if we have a fire?
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm just shooting a YouTube video, so you'll hear me talking into my camera like a psycho.
Sounds good.
All right. So these are flares. These are required, and these also need to be kept current in your boat. So I mean by that, I mean you can't have expired flares. Let's see if these are current. Oh yeah, these expired this summer. I probably went out twice illegally with these old flares. So yeah, these are obviously an emergency thing. If I had 2 people on my boat and I was in dire straits, I would have someone on the VHF if there was boaters around trying to get a hold of them, and one person popping flares. I would divide and conquer that way if I was just kind of dead in the water, like I had no motor. So, you know, very important. What I do with my flares when they expire is I put them in my truck, just in case you need to, if you need flares just for the road. And after that, because I actually have, you know, like a lot of expired flares because they expire about every 3 years. I think the best place to get the most current flares is actually go to a boat store. If you go to like a big chain store, usually their flares are only like a year from expiring, whereas you'd hope to be closer to 3. I'll practice with them. So the oldest flares I have, I'll actually pop some flares like over a campfire or something, just practice what popping a flare is like. It's fun to do too. But I think it's very I don't know if conservative or liberal is the right term, very precautionary, those expiration dates, because I pop flares that are like 10 years past expiration and they work just fine. I don't know if I've ever had a flare not work on me, but they basically have a 3-year expiration. So I got to replace those this season, so glad I'm doing this video. Now here's a good one. This is a, looks like I might be missing the tip. I don't know if that's the tip or not, so I got to find that if that is the case. No, I think this is the whole thing. There's nothing in there. This is a fire extinguisher. I have used a fire extinguisher on my boat. That is required, I believe, for most powercraft, if not all powercraft. And it, one time I sat back on my seat and I had a wire, a fish finder wire behind me, and it basically made a fire, made an electrical fire, and it caught the seat on fire. It was pretty satisfying to get to use this, but yeah, this is probably something also that I should look into replacing since it's getting up there in years. But yeah, so that's something good to have if you have any electronics there. Here's another requirement. It is my rockfish descending device. So I used to have this on a pole. I don't really come into encounter that many rockfish that need descended, maybe once every 3 years, and this does the job. And also this is more line just to have for an emergency. So there you go. We're getting near the bottom here. It's amazing how much I fit into this thing, and it's fun to make. It's fun to put them together too. I got sunblock, you know, very fair-skinned individual. So always nice to have an emergency one on the boat. Oh, and speaking of boat emergencies, not a month ago, this saved me. This is an emergency clip. Most power motors, at least the little ones I use, the little tiller motors, they have the emergency stop. So you're supposed to have that on, then have this strap here on your life jacket. So if you fall out of the boat, the motor stops, and you can go back, get into the boat, and also the boat might not turn around and kill you. This one also has a whistle, which is nice. But I used this about a month ago crabbing, because I don't know if it fell off in transit or if it's somewhere around my garage, but I lost my clip. So having one of these on can definitely save your day. Speaking of save your day things in a boat, extra plug. This has also saved my day before, numerous occasions. For whatever reason, my plug isn't in the boat. Yeah, sometimes if you're in the boat, and let's say you didn't get the plug in and it's filling with water, it might be quicker just to grab it out of here too, and then try to find it in the giant pile of water before it went in your boat. So that's good. Got a couple extra flashlights. Probably look and see if these are still work. I don't know, really need 2, but it never hurts, I guess, to have extra pair of pliers. These are largely used for crimping barbs. I mean, I could use them for other safety measures. Let's see here, just about at the end, got some random zip ties, a couple screwdrivers, which I probably should go soak in some vinegar to get the rust off, but those have come in handy when having to work. A lot of this is to do with engine stuff, so if you're a kayaker, this is way simpler. But if you have a small engine like I do, most of those things have come in handy at one point or another. This here is a belt for my, not manual, what stops in the manual? My automatic, I guess, my electrical downrigger. So, you know, they have the belts, and the belts can snap, and I've had a belt snap, so there you go. That is. Oh, and then lastly, I guess I had another plug in here I wasn't aware of. So there you go. That is everything I keep in my boat box. It's really nice to have. I like having them in a pretty small space like this. I'll actually bring it onto other people's boats, because sometimes they might not have all the things. I mean, I know that sounds kind of Karen-y, I guess, but just in case I'm like, oh, you don't have a noise-making device or a fire extinguisher here, or whatever, you know, it's nice to be able to move it from vessel to vessel, even with your own vessels, you know, because I run my dinghy and I have a 14-footer, you know. So there you go. Well, hey, those who own boats out there, or kayaks, or anything that floats, what did I miss? And did you get any good ideas from this? I'd love to hear from you. And like I say, especially anything that I missed, because I'll pin it if it's something I missed that's pretty important and the folks should know. Well, thank you so much. Have a happy and safe time out there on the water in 2023, and heck, the remainder of 2022 as well. See you next time on Washington Fish Quest.